Yeah, there we go. Okay. Alrighty. What? Oh, there we go. It was like totally lagging out or something. Alright. 3RD, Sand River encounter. Again, so it's important not to play too far on this north, particularly in a heavy top tier. You can play through this middle-ish area here. You gotta be a little bit careful, but more often than not, in a heavy tank, what I'll do is I'll come back through the base and then I'll come up over here, depending on what our spotting tanks do or see. But let's see what this guy does. So he's going forward to this dune, which is not a real solid play in an IS-7 against 3RD on Sand River, because if you play the back of this dune here, you can still get shot by RD pretty easily, or at least I can hit you pretty easily. And then you always want to look and see what your team is doing. Like we say, 30, 60 seconds into the game, you want to see where your guys are at, even before you spot anyone else on their team, right? So this 50-51 will get some spots. And this is a decent spot for 50-51, because as long as he keeps moving, it's going to be difficult for artillery to hit him. And this gives your team some idea of what they're going to send up here. And see how they sent the IS-7, the mouse right here? So this guy can really, like the 50-51, can just keep those guys lit, and the RD can go to town on them. At least in theory. But like, so one of the things that you want to do, like, you'll notice this IS-7's position, he's kind of what I call low on this hill. And whenever you're next to a hill like this and you don't want to get hit by artillery, you want to be on the slope of the hill. You don't want to be on the base of the hill, because the RD shells will tend to land more on the base than on that slope. So you'd rather play a little bit higher up on the hill. And again, it's the same thing for this IS-7, the mouse on this side, Mauschen and the E100, right? These guys are going to be vulnerable. And this is where RD tends to have a field day. I'll try to show what 51 is doing, and then see how he got hit by RD there. And again, that RD was probably positioned in this area right here, but the further south they get, the easier it is to shoot into this area. And so, like, see how he has his armor pointed this way? You actually probably want to turn your armor around until they actually get guys pushing through here. But luckily their top tier heavies are just as bad. But again, that's why you don't want to sit out where this guy is sitting. And then also these guys down here, if they play it right, then they can get shots into his ass as well, which is why you don't take heavies into this area. And again, you should recognize what bad position is. Like when half of the enemy team can shoot you, that's bad position, right? When RD can just lock onto you and you don't really have any recourse, that's bad position. So this guy is not in a good position. So he's done one shot of damage to this IS-7, who's also has incredibly bad position. But that's not getting it done, right? That's not winning you games. And you can depend on the idiocy of your opponent only so much. You want to be able to put yourself in a position where you can dictate the pace, where you can dictate the action, and you're not always just like, oh man, I hope somebody dumb drives in front of me. I don't know what what your artillery is doing though, because these guys have been lit the whole time, and that guy's easily hittable. I don't know why their T-92 isn't still shooting over here. And again, you'll notice the further, as I was saying earlier, the further you get away from this hill, the easier you are to hit. And this team hasn't really moved forward at all, which is a bit of a limitation. So even though their team is not playing this very well on this side, they're not being super punished for it. And so like what I was saying earlier is that, see where this IS-7 is relative to the mouse? Even though the Mauschen is really tall, he's actually slightly harder to hit than this IS-7, because this IS-7 is further away from the slope of the hill. So if you were to look at it from the top-down mode, you'd basically see that more of the trail could hit the IS-7 than can actually hit the Mauschen. which is why you want to kind of be close to there. Oh man, Tortoise is going for it. So a PTA shouldn't try to trade, basically a medium tank in general shouldn't try to trade with an IS-7 from that distance, unless the IS-7 has this master side to you. But yeah, so this guy's been sitting out in the open the entire time, and he's only got shot by artillery once, so good for him. And then you don't want to turn your ass quite at this point. And he is a little bit more on the slope of the hill, which helps. But again, this is more their enemy team being really bad than him being in a really good position. Lol. E100's like, maybe he won't see me. At least they're already shooting over here now. But again, that's why you don't really want to rely upon your opponent being dumb. Because if your opponent's not dumb, then you're just like, well, okay, we're kind of boned. You always want to make it so that you're the one that can dictate when damage is done. You're not at the mercy of your opponent. Bounces are real. And then again, if you're going to go that far forward against the Malshin, you might as well go all the way. That's the same problem their E100 had. And then you always want to make it so that when you're reloaded, the instant that you're reloaded, that you can get that shot. And then now you're probably going to have to go back. Well, look at that T-95, boys. Oh, unless you can snipe him here. Oh, not quite. And then you're not really super worried about the cap. Well, I don't know where that mouse is going, but alright. And then if you're this IS-7, you want to sort of retake this center hill as much as you can. And then again, if you drive up to the slope of this hill here, you'll get shots that you won't get on this side. And then you actually probably want to drive forward here rather than reverse. Get towards this ditch where the Arty can't shoot you. This guy's done a good job of sitting out where Arty... Well, I guess I shouldn't use sarcasm since that might not go over well. This guy's done a really bad job by sitting out in the open where Arty can shoot at him the entire game. And really, you want to be more Arty safe. People complain about Arty all the time, but then they just kind of sit out in the open and they're like, well, why did Arty hit me? I'm like, well, it's because you were just sitting out there. So there's so many places that you can go to be safe that you should look to take advantage of that. And then he doesn't really have enough time to dilly-dally here. He should just move forward as much as he can. Look at that IS-7 camo. Man, this team is just like sitting out here letting him shoot him. Well, and then of course he's pinned in here now, so he doesn't really have much recourse. Actually wouldn't worry too much about that guy. He's not going to be able to help. And then really all he can do is just try to push these guys, because Artie's going to be able to whittle them down. Oh man, the rotational stability is real. Oh, the HE from the T-30 is real. Whoa. Oh, where are you going? And then he just needs to try to get out. You can go ditch, you can go anywhere. Fortunately, I don't think he's gonna make it, boys. Oh, the mantlet hit. He's making a run for it. This is what he should do, given that the Centurion backed off. And then what you want to do is you want to get Artie safe underneath here. Get Artie safe, my man. Get Artie safe. Not Artie safe enough. Oh well. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that this was an exceptional game by any stretch. I think he took bad position for most of the map. You just benefited a lot from the fact that the enemy team was really dumb. But again, you know, a lot of times what you're hoping for in these games is not necessarily that your team does fantastically, but that, you know, the enemy team is just as dumb as your team. And unfortunately, that was not the case here. So in recap, as I was saying, like going to this position in an IS-7 and a map with in a basically open map with 3 artillery is not good. Even though their artillery wasn't smart enough to shoot at him there, that's a really easy shot for me to hit. So you don't want to sit there, especially if you're going to be lit the entire game. But he was lucky because their team was just as dumb, right? They sent the E-100, their IS-7, and the Malshin here as well, which is not a good place for them to be at either for the exact same reason. It's just too easy. So that's something that you want to avoid. And playing over on this hill is probably the smartest thing that he did in the late game, but by then it was, you know, the game was already decided, and there wasn't going to be a whole lot that he could do. All right, so if we look at the results, yeah. Not so good from your team in general, but that'll happen. But yeah, I mean, if you focus on being in a better position, you know, maybe you won't do as much damage, but you'll have a much better chance of winning the game, I think, than playing through that middle against all of those already. And then again, if you end up in that position where you have to play that, you want to play it much more arty safe than that guy did. You want to play it a little bit more on that slope of that hill. You want to make sure that your position is reasonably arty safe, especially when you know that arty is shooting at you. But GG, nice try. So what would have been the best position for a heavy with poor depression? Either through the middle or through the south. Either of them play really well for heavies, well, relatively well for heavies. Sand River in general is not a good heavy. Sand River in general is not a very good heavy tank map. All right, so next we will look at this SP1C game. So, yeah, how come I don't have a... There we go. For some reason I don't have control at the beginning of the match. Okay. So, on this type of map, I always look to go south here and light tanks because you can light their guys coming up early. You don't necessarily need to commit to the ditch full bore until you see what your team is doing. And again, that's something that you'll have an idea by coming down here. And it looks like what he's doing, which is good. And then we'll see what the team does. It looks like a lot of their low tiers are going down here, or mid tiers, I guess in this case. So it looks like you've got like the mid to lows, but there's enough tanks coming here. So what you want to do, so generally speaking in a light tank, I'll run this track. One, because it's faster, there's less ground resistance there, but two, you can also see if you can spot anybody there. In a light tank, it's very rare, unless you have like really bad camo or really bad crew, for them to actually be able to counter spot you there, just because you'll retain so much camo on the move. And then you can play through any of these bushes here if you want, but generally what I'll do early is I'll play up on this railroad track because it'll allow me to see people coming in before they crest the hill. Sort of where this guy is going. I like his thinking. And so it's something where you want to be careful coming off of here though, because the further that you get away from the train, the more difficult it is. And then see how these guys stopped in the back, but there's nobody supporting that tight. So what this guy is doing is correct. And so what you don't want to do, particularly in a tank like this, right? You don't want to set up on this side here. You want to push across, because here you can still get shot by Artie. You can still get shot by this guy across here. But once you push across here, that makes it much more difficult for this guy. You can use this for cover if need be. And then you don't want to push out too far this way for the same reason. They can get shots from over on this side, like see where these guys are at. But this guy's got nowhere to go, so all you have to do is sit back here or around where this 1375 is and just shoot at this guy, right? And then he's got no recourse there. But see how he's pushing out here? He's overexposing himself. This 1375 is overexposing himself. This 5916 is probably going to die. And then you'll probably want to take down the low health tank here, this 44. The 1.244 should kill him, and then the Cromwell LB. And again, he's not in a very good position. Okay. Shot by the 12T. The 12T's out there someplace. He's not the problem, but that's why you want to play through this inside here, because you'll be much more protected. One at a time, boys. One at a time. It's the honorable way to go. And then again, these guys are in no man's land. And this is the same thing, right? So we talk about this in the stream a lot, but this area where these guys are at right now, if they own the ditch, then these guys are forfeit, or it's really easy for Artie to shoot them, although there's no Artie in this match. But it's really easy for them to get shot from a number of different angles. It's the exact same thing on the other side where these guys are at. If you own the ditch, it's really easy to get shots on them. Oh man, the Black Prince is going for it. I'm not sure what this guy's doing. All he had to do is back up behind this tiger bee. What is it? It looks like a tiger bee. Whatever it was. Tiger. And then let this guy get owned, but he decided that that was not how he wanted to play it. And the interesting thing about the SP1C is that it has a lot of gun depression. So like you can push this Cromwell pretty easily. Get that Rudy out. And that's the same thing, you can push across here. This 122-44 is just using W and the fact that the 122-44 is like OP. And so you'll notice that even for non-turreted tank destroyers, you know, pressing W is really important to doing well. Knowing when to press W is important as well, you know. And I'm not entirely sure why this guy's not pushing this Rudy here. You don't want to push over the tracks, because over the tracks gets you shot from the other side. You push underneath, where the only guy that can shoot you is the Rudy. But it didn't really cost him. And then you gotta think about going back to spot through this side, because they've got the bit of an advantage there. And that's something that light tanks do very well. Again, spotting. And you can play up through this lakeside through here by playing low, kind of where this pattern, river pattern is going. And you can basically spot both ways. You do want to push forward. You don't want to camp. You're not. What you're doing here is you're waiting for these guys to spot the enemy for you. It's your job. It is your job to spot them, not his.
Gegnerfahrzeug ausgeschaltet.
And again, you probably want to push that SP1C. I wouldn't worry too much about the VKP. Go and find the SP1C. Again, you're depending a little bit too much on this Ripper pattern to spot for you, and he's not in a very good position. You want to go and push that side. And again, that's something that's easy to do by just going around through there, right? And you also have to worry about the cap as well. Unfortunately, your Ripper pattern's going to get himself killed. And you're basically just sniping in a light tank, which is not really how you want to play this tank. And again, that's something where you could have come up on this side and shot these guys really easily, particularly with the gun depression that this tank does have. Unfortunately, Cromwell's probably not going to make it. There's a little bit too much snipey-dipey. Not sure why you're stopping here. You need to push towards your Cromwell to see if you can save him. Because that 34 still hasn't crossed the track yet, so you can get shots on him. But, too late. My man, too late. And again, these tanks are not the most accurate of tanks. And so you're kind of hoping that that 34 goes back towards the cap, because you can outspot him and then outsnipe him, but if he moves forward, then you're pretty much boned. He's moving forward. You're not really going to get a good shot there. He's gonna be hulled down. You need to try to get a couple shots on him before he gets here. You're getting a little bit too close. A little bit too crazy, a little bit too loose here. Because the guy on cap can shoot you as well. Oh, the guy on cap missed. Lol, guy on cap missed twice. Oh, but he wasn't able to kill him. Vasayed. And you kind of want to avoid going backwards like that. If at all possible, you want to be able to turn your tank around to go the other way. So going through this side was okay. Playing through the ditch was fine. I thought that was a good move. And then for some reason you got really passive. You tried to let your Ripper Patton spot for you, and that's not really how you should have played that. You should have played these hills over here where you could have spotted those guys back here, and then he could have gotten shots on them. He's got a much better gun than you, like all tanks have much better guns than you. You became very, very passive, very, very snipey-dipey, which is not really how you want to play light tanks. That is not their strength. The gun is not very strong on any of these light tanks. You want to try to avoid that. And then going back, if you're going to go back, you should have gone back to help out that Cromwell a little bit earlier before the T-34 got to him. I don't think that anybody played this side very well at all, but them's the breaks. All right, so if we look at the stats, .122.44, driving forward, pressing left click. Unfortunately, the rest of your team did not do a whole lot, including those guys that went to the north. But them's the breaks. You shot pretty well overall, which is good. But just avoid being so snipey, particularly at the end game. That sort of mid to late game, that's where light tanks can really shine, right? By using their spotting, by controlling distance and things like that. So I would look to probably practice that a little bit more, because that'll make you more effective in that mid to late game. Otherwise, GG, nice try.